Have you ever looked at someone you love and felt something deep in your gut whisper, something's changed? Not dramatic, not obvious, but different, slower, quieter, less of a spark. These aren't just quirks of aging. Sometimes they're quiet signals that time is running short, and most of us miss them until it's too late. That's why this video matters more than ever. Because when we're older, whether we're looking out for ourselves or someone we care deeply about, it's not the dramatic moments that catch us off guard. It's the subtle shifts, the things we write off as just getting old, but they might be something more. And if we can learn to spot them early, we can offer comfort, make important decisions, and bring peace when it's needed most. In this video, we're going to talk openly, gently, and honestly about something many people avoid, the subtle signs that someone may be in their final year of life. It's not meant to scare you, it's meant to help you, to prepare you, to remind you that love, presence, and care are the most powerful things we can offer, especially near the end. So let's take a closer look together. One of the first signs, often brushed aside, is something called withdrawal, emotional, social, and sometimes even physical. Maybe your mother used to light up when family visited, but now she just nods and smiles, not really engaging. Maybe your neighbor, who always loved his garden, just doesn't bother planting this year. Or perhaps your old friend stopped calling back, stopped making plans, slowly slipping out of routines. It's not just forgetfulness or being tired. It's a quiet detachment, like they're slowly stepping away from the world. This kind of withdrawal isn't just about mood. It's deeper. It might look like someone skipping church, no longer showing up for their weekly card game, or avoiding the phone when it rings. And sometimes they can't even explain why. They might just say, "I'm tired," or "I don't feel up to it." But deep down, their body and mind are preparing in ways they may not even understand. It's like their world is gently shrinking one circle at a time. And here's the hard part. We often don't notice this until much later, because we want to believe they're just having an off week, or they'll bounce back. But when this withdrawal becomes a pattern, not days, but weeks or months, it's something we shouldn't ignore. It's a signal, a quiet one, that something bigger might be happening under the surface. Now, let's talk about another sign that tends to sneak up on people, changes in appetite. And no, we're not just talking about a skipped meal or a bland dinner. This is deeper, a real shift in how someone relates to food. Maybe your dad suddenly has no interest in his favorite meal. Maybe your aunt barely eats a few bites and pushes the plate away. They might not say they're sick. They might just say, "I'm not hungry," or "Nothing tastes good anymore." But when this goes on, when meals become more a chore than pleasure, it could be more than just aging taste buds. The body, when it's beginning to slow down in a significant way, often starts to require less fuel. It starts shutting down systems, little by little. Digestion, metabolism, energy, they all slow down. And what we see on the outside is that untouched sandwich or half-empty glass of juice. Sometimes, they'll even crave strange foods or forget to eat altogether. And when they do eat, it might feel like they're forcing themselves, not enjoying it. You may notice more weight loss, even if they don't talk about it. And if you ask, they may say they didn't notice. But their body has noticed. It's responding, quietly, steadily. Both of these signs, emotional withdrawal and appetite changes, might seem like no big deal at first, especially if you're someone who believes in not making a fuss. But sometimes, not making a fuss means missing a moment to act, to connect, or simply to sit beside someone and say, "I'm here, I see you." The truth is, when we notice these patterns early, not with panic, but with presence, we can gently support each other in ways that matter. We can have those important conversations. We can create more meaningful days, more peaceful endings, because no one should feel invisible as they grow closer to the end of life. And let me tell you this, it's not about diagnosing someone or jumping conclusions. It's about honoring the small signs, noticing the shifts, and caring enough to ask, to listen, and to just be there. When you think about it, isn't that what we all want in the end? To be seen, to be heard, and to be loved. Now that we've opened the door to these subtle but important changes, let's continue this conversation and look even closer at some of the other quiet signals we should never overlook. Earlier, we talked about how emotional withdrawal and appetite changes can quietly whisper that something deeper is happening. Now, let's keep walking down this path together, because there's more. And just like before, these aren't loud warnings. They're whispers. But if we're paying attention, we can hear them. Another subtle sign that tend to sneak up on us is increased sleep or fatigue. Not the kind where someone stays up late and takes a nap the next day, but a deeper, more persistent kind of tired. The kind where they sleep longer, do less, and still seem exhausted. Maybe they used to wake up with the sun, sit out on the porch, chat with the neighbors. But now, mornings drag on, and they sleep until mid-morning or even into the afternoon. Some days, it feels like they're only awake for a few hours, and even then their energy is low, like they're carrying something heavy you can't see. You might hear them say things like, "I just can't keep my eyes open," or "I'm worn out and I haven't even done anything today." And sometimes they stop saying anything at all. They just drift, nap, wake, rest, repeat. It's not laziness. It's not boredom. It's their body gently slowing down, like a dimmer switch being turned lower and lower over time. And even if they try to fight it, the tiredness seems to win. It's heartbreaking to watch, especially when it's someone who used to be so full of life. But it's not about giving up. It's about the body doing what it knows how to do, conserving energy when it no longer needs to run the same race. And in moments like this, our presence, just being near, offering comfort, matters more than trying to fix it. Another sign we need to talk about, one that often gets missed, is unexplained confusion or sudden changes in behavior. Maybe your loved one suddenly forgets where they are or who someone is. Maybe they start misplacing things in strange places, keys in the freezer or the remote in the bathroom drawer. Maybe they get irritated for no reason, snapping over small things that wouldn't have bothered them before. One day, they're clear and present. The next, they're foggy, disoriented, or even agitated. It can feel like whiplash. And at first, you might chalk it up to a bad night's sleep, or maybe dehydration, or a mix-up in their medications. And sometimes, that's all it is. But when this fog becomes more frequent, when they start drifting in and out of clarity like waves washing in and out, it could be a sign that their mind is starting to let go. You might notice them staring off into the distance more often, or forgetting how to do simple tasks, things they've done for years. Or they might seem lost even in familiar places. These aren't just senior moments. They're deeper, more disorienting, and sometimes frightening. One woman I spoke to shared how her father, who had been sharp as a tack his whole life, suddenly didn't recognize his own backyard. He walked out to get the paper and stood there, confused, asking if he was in the right place. He wasn't scared, just lost, like the place he'd known for 50 years had turned foreign overnight. And the truth is, moments like that stay with you. But they're also a chance, a moment to respond not with fear or frustration, but with compassion, a chance to meet them where they are, not drag them back to where you wish they were, to slow down and enter their world, even if just for a little while. Now, there's another quiet shift that often goes unnoticed, changes in personal hygiene or appearance. This one can be tricky because it's easy to brush off. After all, who doesn't skip a shave now and then? Or forget to change into clean clothes right away. But when someone who used to take pride in their appearance starts to let it slip, when the shower becomes an afterthought, or clothes are mismatched, or their hair goes unbrushed, it's not just about forgetfulness. Sometimes it's because they don't have the energy. Other times, it's because they no longer see the point. The little details of daily life, the things that once mattered, start to fade into the background. You might notice their clothes are stained, or that they were the same outfit several days in a row. Their fingernails might be untrimmed, or they skip brushing their teeth. And if you ask about it, they may shrug, say they're fine, or even get defensive. But deep down, it could be that they're starting to let go of routines that once defined their day. And this is where we step in, not to scold, but to gently offer support. A soft reminder, a helping hand, a warm smile. Because dignity doesn't come from doing everything yourself. It comes from knowing you're loved, even when things get difficult. Especially then, all of these signs, fatigue, confusion, hygiene changes, they don't always happen at once. And they don't always mean the end is near. But when they start to stack up, when they appear alongside the withdrawal and loss of appetite we talked about earlier, they form a picture that's worth paying attention to. Not because we're giving up, but because we care, because we want to be ready. Not just for what's coming, but for what still matters now. Love, connection, and comfort. So if you're seeing any of these signs in someone you love, or even in yourself, pause, take a breath. Don't panic. Just notice, and then show up with kindness. Because the smallest gestures, a shared meal, a soft blanket, a few minutes of listening, can mean everything when time feels short. Let's keep this conversation going. When we notice these quiet changes, less talking, more sleeping, skipping meals, moment of confusion, it's natural to feel a little overwhelmed, especially if it's someone you love. You start to ask yourself, is something really wrong? Or am I just imagining it? And deep down, a part you already knows the answer, even if your heart isn't ready to say it out loud. But here's something that often goes unnoticed until it's too late, and it's what I want to talk about next. It's a shift that happens in the way someone talks about life, about the past, and sometimes about death itself. This sign is what many people call life closure, a gentle emotional winding down that goes far beyond just reminiscing. You might hear them talk about loved ones who've already passed. Maybe they say things like, "I think about your mom a lot lately," or "I had a dream about my brother last night. He looked peaceful." Or maybe they bring up regrets they never mentioned before. "I should have gone on that trip." Or "I wish I'd said sorry when I had the chance." These conversations come out of nowhere, usually quiet, reflective. Sometimes it happens at the kitchen table, sometimes in the car, sometimes when you least expect it. It's not just nostalgia, it's a soft turning inward. You'll hear more of "I remember when" and less of "let's do that next month." The future starts to slip into the background, while memories rise to the surface like bubbles in a still pond. Some stories you've heard before, but now they feel heavier, more meaningful, as if they're being handed to you like a keepsake. And what's even more telling is how their words start to carry a tone of acceptance, not fear. You might hear someone say, "I've had a good life," or "If my time comes, I'm okay with it." Sometimes they'll express concern about the people they're leaving behind more than themselves. "I just hope you'll be all right," or "I don't want to be a burden." That last part, it cuts deep because it shows how much they care, even as they begin to step away. That's why it's so important not to shut down these conversations. Don't rush to change the subject or say, "Don't talk like that." Let them speak. Let them feel heard. Because this emotional closure is part of their journey. And your presence, your willingness to sit with those words, even when they're hard to hear, is a gift you'll never regret giving. Now let's talk about one more subtle but powerful signal. Physical frailty that seems to come out of nowhere. Not the slow decline we expect over time, but a rapid loss of strength, balance, or mobility. Maybe someone who could walk to the mailbox every morning suddenly needs help getting out of a chair. Maybe someone who used to climb stairs with ease now avoids them entirely, or needs to rest after taking just a few steps. And here's what's important. It's not always linked to an illness. There's no new diagnosis, no big event, just a quiet weakening. The legs feel shaky, the grip feels soft. Tasks that used to take 5 minutes suddenly take 15, or don't get done at all. You might notice them leaning on walls more, sitting down often, even trembling slightly when reaching for something. It can be hard to pinpoint exactly when it started, but when you look back, you realize it's been building. And the truth is, the body knows. Long before we say the words, the body starts preparing. It slows the heart, loosens the muscles, shifts the weight of life gently downward. And when we notice the sudden frailty, it's not a sign to panic, but a signal to be present. This is when your support means the most, not just physically, like helping with groceries or brushing their hair, but emotionally. This is when a hand on the shoulder, a slow walk together, or just sitting in silence says more than words ever could. And yes, sometimes they'll try to brush it off. "I'm just a little tired today," they'll say, or "These old legs aren't what they used to be." And maybe that's true, but if the weakness lingers, it becomes part of their everyday. It may be one of the clearest signs that they're nearing life's final chapter. What matters most in this time isn't a miracle fix or some big intervention. It's creating moments of dignity, moments of comfort, moments that remind them, "You're not alone. I'm with you." You see, the final year of life doesn't always come with alarms and flashing lights. Sometimes it comes with quiet afternoons, skipped meals, slower walks, softer voices, and stories told with trembling hands. But in those quiet signs lies a powerful truth. Every moment still matters. Every conversation, every cup of tea, every hand held during a nap. Because even if time is short, love has no expiration. And presence, true presence, is something we can give right up until the very end. If you've made it this far, You already know this conversation isn't about fear. It's about love. It's about learning to recognize those soft-spoken signs, the ones that don't scream for attention, but whisper for compassion. Let's talk about the final sign, one that's perhaps the most misunderstood of all, a deep sense of peace or surrender that seems to settle in, even when things are uncertain. Now, this one can be confusing because it often looks like someone has given up, but it's not about giving up. It's about letting go. There's a quiet difference between the two. You might see it in their eyes, calm, steady, almost as if they've made peace with something the rest of us are still fighting to control. Maybe they stop asking about the next doctor appointment. Maybe they no longer want to try new medications. Maybe they say something like, "I just want to rest," or "I'm tired of the poking and prodding." And while that may sound like despair to someone on the outside, it can actually be a beautiful sign of internal peace. They're not scared. They're not angry. They're just still, present, gentle, like someone who's made their peace with the waves and is simply waiting for the tide to come in. And when that happens, our job isn't to pull them back to shore. It's to sit beside them, to hold their hand, to help them feel safe, seen, and loved. Because that's what they need most. Not our panic, not our solutions, just our presence. This shift, this calm surrender, isn't a failure. It's often a sacred moment, a sign that someone has come to terms with their story, their life, their path. And when we allow that space to exist without rushing to fill it, something profound happens. We start to let go, too, not with grief, but with grace. So now, let's gently pull back and reflect on what we've talked about. Sometimes, the most important signs don't come from machines or lab results. They come from the people we love, from how they eat, how they move, how they speak, how they stop speaking. They come from what they no longer ask for and what they begin to talk about instead. And in the end, it's not about checking off symptoms. It's about being present enough to notice, brave enough to ask, and loving enough to stay close. If you're noticing any of these signs in someone you love or in yourself, it doesn't mean time is up tomorrow, but it may mean it's time to start focusing on what truly matters now. Time to slow down, to be intentional, to spend more hours doing less and more moments being real. Tell them the stories you've held on to. Ask the questions you never got around to. Play their favorite song. Make their favorite meal, even if they only take one bite. Sit outside and watch the birds. Laugh, cry, reminisce. Be fully there. Because sometimes the most healing thing we can do is simply be there. And if you're the one seeing some of these signs in yourself, let me say this to you directly. Your life still matters. Your presence still brings warmth. You are still someone's reason to smile. Even if you're tired, even if you're slowing down, even if you're quietly preparing for what's next, your story is still unfolding and your presence is still a gift. We all want a long life, yes, but more than that, we want a life that feels full. And part of that fullness comes from knowing how to say goodbye with grace when the time comes. Not with fear, not with regret, but with peace, surrounded by love. So if this video touched something inside you, if it reminded you of someone or made you feel seen, I hope you'll take a moment to let us know in the comments. Your stories, your experiences, your wisdom, they matter. You never know who you might help by sharing. And if you found comfort here, please give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe for more conversations like this, real, kind, and always filled with heart. Because here, we believe that aging isn't the end of life's beauty. It's the deepening of it. A reminder that even in our final chapters, there is still time for meaning, still time for connection, still time for love. Here's to living your best life at every stage, every age, and in every breath we're given. Take care of yourself and take care of each other.